First reason, Anthony Volpe has competition. This is one of the things that we hear year after year, especially entering, whether it's this offseason or last offseason, and it's completely justified, and it's, well, Anthony Volpe is just an automatic at the shortstop position. How can you be excited about a year which is just going to be the same old thing? Volpe probably get off to a good start. In this case, he's out for the first month, and then teeters off the rest of the way. Production ends up being below league average, and just a player that, while his prospect scouting report at the time was an offense first bat, that has been the complete opposite of what we've gotten so far. Now, in the case of Volpe, I do want to mention that I don't yet consider him a total lost cause. I understand if there are ones at home that do, and we'll get into in just a moment why you should be still excited about this year regarding this. But I'll tell you, Volpe, no matter what, is a disappointment at this current spot that we're at because of the offense. He was supposed to hit. Remember, it's very similar to Austin Wells to a degree. Their trajectories have been very similar in the sense of their prospect report was that they were going to be offense first guys. Well, that totally switched. With Volpe, it was how good is his defense going to be? And prior to 2025, his defense was really good. Austin Wells, his defense is exceptional, really. But the offense has been disappointing. That's the case for both Wells and Volpe. The reason I bring this graphic up here, this is courtesy of Baseball Savant, of course. 2024, I'm not saying that's the moon to shoot for with Volpe, but the main thing we definitely got to get back to is, all right, expectations offensively are, one might say, non-existent. For me, they're just significantly lowered. Expectations defensively, though, he's got to get back to where he was in 2024. He was a 3.5 WAR player, and that pretty much entirely stemmed from his value that he gave fielding-wise. He was 14 outs above average. Last year, he was -7. There was an extreme dip in his defense at short. Whether or not that has anything to do with the injury to his shoulder, granted, it wasn't his throwing shoulder, so tough to really make any determinations there. But what we know is the case is his defense significantly regressed last year, as did his base running. And when you're not getting anything offensively, it's tough to really accept that. If he's one of the better shortstops defensively in the league, all right, at least you're getting something from him. Now, we know he's coming back beginning of May, and he's going to get the job back. He'll have a chance to prove himself year 4, which, tweak about that, and that's understandably so. It's completely valid. With that said, though, I cannot emphasize this enough. Remember, this is Brian Cashman back in December at the winter meetings discussing Volpe versus Caballero. And this question has come up to Boone the last couple days. Michael Kay was asking him on his show, what do you do if, all right, Volpe comes back May 1st and Jose Caballero's hitting 340? Or I just kind of equate it to what he did last year that's his overall stat line, which, by the way, even that, better numbers than Volpe, a 97 WRC+. We know his defense is good. WAR above 2, and the stolen bases speak for itself. Well, if you just go to his Yankee stats, which was a 40-game sample size, right around 100 plate appearances. So you can kind of look at that and just, let's imagine this is what Caballero does, and which would be best case scenario. Caballero puts up a 372 OBP before Anthony Volpe returns May 1st. So we're right around 100 plate appearances, which is what he did last year, Caballero. If that's the case, and Boone was asked this question, he would just say the answer, which is true. Hey, if I got that problem, word up. He didn't say word up, but pretty much. Anyways, to go back to this Cashman quote, he said, may the best man win and keep the job, in reference to Volpe and Caballero. He said, let's see, the game separates it all. The men from the boys dictates who and who shouldn't be playing over the course of time from the roster that the manager has. And the first quote in this little snippet says, I have no idea where things can go. It says, people continue to earn their playing time or they don't. In some cases, if you don't have alternatives, somebody stays in that lane, continue to play unless you import someone else. But if it's competition off the guys on the club, may the best man win and keep the job. Understand what Cashman is saying here. Look at that line in particular. In some cases, if you don't have alternatives, somebody stays in that lane, continuing to play unless you import something else. Well, until they acquired Caballero and until the situation we're in pretty much right now, all it was Volpe to keep playing. There was no alternative, as Cashman mentions in this quote. The alternative now, of course, is Caballero. And while no matter what, Volpe will get his chance to, I don't even say reclaim the job. I think no matter what, even if Caballero puts up a 372 OBP, a 134 WRC plus before Volpe returns, Volpe's going to get his shot. But if it plays out where, all right, he returns and, well, it's for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, I would say at least a month of Volpe struggling, there is an alternative, and it's Jose Caballero. And the main thing I would hold out hope for, and not even hope, this will be the case. If Volpe is ass and is what he was last year, and Caballero is competent offensively, and the numbers he put up as a Yankee last year are far past competent. He was really good. But just going off of the defense, and if he's better with the bat than Volpe is, he's starting in the postseason. So that's already one big difference between the 2026 team and 2025. Anthony Volpe has competition. And this one stat that I like, granted, based heavily off of the production he gave us last year, but there's a lot to like with Caballero. With the stolen bases, his OBP last year overall in 126 games was 339. You see the WAR. I mean, he already exceeds Volpe where he's at right now. But anyways, that 1.1 WAR that he posted with the Yankees last year in 40 games, you extrapolate that, like that word, extrapolate over a full season, it's a 4.5 WAR. That would exceed Anthony Volpe's career best, which was that 2024 season where the defense was exceptional, truly like elite. Anthony Volpe was a 3.5 WAR guy that year. So, granted, small sample size and extrapolating stats, especially for a guy you don't know exactly what he's going to be, that's a tough game to play, but we'll play it. In this case, Caballero last year, over a full season, that's a better year than Anthony Volpe's ever had as a Yankee. Remains to be seen what his production will be, but at the very least, with Caballero, his defense is good. This isn't a downside, but projecting what the Yankees might do with him, we know they like him a lot as the 10th man, guy off the bench, pinch running, speed opportunity, which, side note, not to get off track here, but on the conversation of who goes down now to begin the season at full health, Oswaldo Cabrera or Jason Dominguez, my guess is Jason, although with Caballero starting the season as a starting shortstop no matter what, you may want to keep Jason on the roster compared to Oswaldo because that gives you that pinch runner off the bench, which you'll need because Caballero will be starting. Anyways, that's reason number one. It's not just the same old Volpe has the job and that's that. No, he's got competition, and Brian Cashman said that was the case with this quote. May the best man win and keep the job, in reference to Volpe and Caballero. So that is reason one. Let's get into reason two. And this one is the most documented one we've discussed at length, and that is the rotation is set up to be elite. Now, let's see. Where do we want to take this first? Let's first acknowledge that the key word is set up to be elite. At the season opener, this is what we're looking at, and it's still really good, honestly. Fried, Cam, Heel, Ryan Weathers, Will Warren. That's the 1 through 5 that I have. We'll see if it's exactly in that order, but those are the 5 guys, as of right now, on paper, full health, or running out there to begin this season. And that's a fine rotation, honestly. But what you get excited about is what the rotation at full health should be come October. Now, I always operate off a 4-man rotation for the postseason. That's usually all you need. And right now, at full health, the Yankees are set up to have a postseason rotation of Fried, Cole, Rodon, Cam, Schlittler, which I'm telling you right now is the best, knock on wood, because obviously this has to play out where guys are healthy, there's no setbacks, and it's baseball. We understand things can happen, which also applies to every other team in the league, by the way. But this is what we got right now on paper is Fried, Cole, Rodon, Cam is your postseason rotation. That is lethal, and that is better than even with the Tigers signing Framber Valdez. While their 1-2 punch, I'll give them that, is better. I think 1 through 4 overall, beginning to end, postseason rotation, Yankees have right now set up to be the best in the American League. Now, a big conversation here, of course, is what can you expect from Garrett Cole? Now, I don't think you guys need me to tell you this. I think most people are pretty reasonable about expectations for Cole, particularly early on. But I want to say this, be patient with him. Guys coming back from Tommy John, especially as they're beginning, not like the rehab process, and Cole's been rehabbing for a bit now. He was thrown even towards the end of last season off the mound at Yankee Stadium. But it is kind of a slow burn getting back to whatever pitcher's returning from Tommy John. It's a slow burn. Now, in the case of Garrett Cole, I have a lot of faith in him because 1, he's Garrett Cole. 2, he's a genius. 3, he knows what he's doing. And 4, the most recent Well, the most recent Yankee I can think of to return from Tommy John that sticks out of my brain. I think I might be skipping over somebody here, but I always go back to Jameson Taillon, who ended up being a really good pitcher for the Yankees, but it was again, slow burn. Early on, it was rough. ERA like over 5 in the first half of the 2021 season. But then as the year went on, you look at how he finished 2021 and then how he pitched in 2022. While he struggled early on, it leveled out and then some about halfway through the first year back from Tommy John through the next year. So my main point with Cole is be patient with him early, but I want to mention a very easy comp to make, and it's 2022 Justin Verlander. Verlander missed basically all of 2021, got Tommy John, made like one start, and that was it. Or maybe he made one start in 2020. Anyways, he gets TJ, returns in 2022, and remember what he did in that season. He won the Cy Young Award. He won 18 games, 1.75 ERA. Justin Verlander did at age, I think he was 37 at the time. Cole is 35. And while you got to be patient early on with him, remember, the Cole we're getting, last time we saw him, he was really good. Really good. In the regular season, he was 8-5 with a 3.41 ERA, 99 Ks and 95 innings pitched. Well, in 5 postseason starts, as you're seeing here on the screen, his ERA was just barely above 2. So the whole grand large-scale starts that he made that year was, over 20 games pitched, and he was right around a 3 ERA, including the postseason. So the last time we saw Cole, he was really good. If we get that Garrett Cole back, and who knows, he might even be better. This isn't me being a shill, but truly, keep in mind, 2024, when Cole came back, he was dealing with kind of a precursor to Tommy John. Earlier that season, in that spring training, we had a Tommy John scare with him already. Ends up, all right, it's not torn, but he missed the first half of the year. Came back, and especially as the year went on, was really strong. But for all we know, that Cole we were watching that entire year wasn't 100%. Theoretically, coming off Tommy John, he should be this year. But be patient with him early. Anyways, I'm excited, of course, for the return of Garrett Cole. And that's one facet of why you should be excited for this rotation this year. Let me go through this really quick. Fried and Rodon, not going to spend too much time on them, but Rodon's healthy. Fried is great. They're both great. They had terrific seasons in 2025. And as of right now, you pencil them in to be in the postseason rotation. So Cole, be patient, but he should be Garrett Cole. He's in the postseason rotation. Max Fried and Carlos Rodon were terrific last year. Rodon will be healthy. I know he was bad against Toronto, but we always talk about it. He could barely straighten out his elbow. That's how bad his injury was. That got cleaned up. Feel good about him. Fried, I think he was tipping pitches against Toronto last year, but no matter what, I feel good about him entering the season. Rodon, I feel good about. Cole, that we've covered. Cam Schlittler. If you go to most projections and look at how scouts talk about him, look at how obviously the Yankees view him, us as fans is one thing, especially coming off of what he did against Boston. But anyways, projections, scouts, they look at him as a viable, legitimate number 2 starter. And it's totally understandable as to why with the fastball velocity. And you look at what he developed as the season went on with the slider, the breaking ball, that really improved. And this offseason we learned he is adding a changeup to his arsenal, which should really help him against lefties. But point is, we're getting a full year of Cam Schlittler. And you look at what he did last year, regular season and postseason overall, 2.68 ERA in 16 games started. In the minor leagues last year, I have his stats up. In 14 minor league starts last year, he had a 2.82 ERA. The year prior, a 3.36 ERA in 25 starts. So it's not like it just came out of nowhere and it's a kid who wasn't on anybody's radar at the time of the Boston start and he just shoved. And reminder, he pitched pretty damn well against Toronto too, 6 innings, 2 runs. This projection has been, or this trajectory, going back to that word, trajectory, has happened very fast. But the increase in velocity happened very fast. It was over like a year or two where all of a sudden he goes from throwing 91 to where he's consistently throwing 100 miles an hour. Cam Schlittler is real, and we're getting a full year of him at the big league level. So the main point is here is the rotation in the postseason. That's always what we talk about is, all right, what's the team going to look like come October? Well, the team come October should have, as of right now, and that's all we can speak on because that's the situation, as of right now, the best rotation in the American League. Fried, Cole, Rodon, Cam Schlittler, 1 through 4. And I keep Fried as the quote-unquote ace in this case, but really just because I want to keep the lefties separated, where you go Fried, then the righty Cole, back to Rodon, the lefty, back to righty Cam Schlittler. Anyways, the rotation, made my point, should be the best in the American League. Obviously, got to make sure everybody's healthy, but also another thing to note, regular season-wise, the depth is insane. Luis Gil, we'll see what he's going to be for us this year. It was a very odd season for him, although the numbers were still pretty good, 3.36 ERA. Ryan Weathers, every team in baseball apparently wanted him, and the Yankees you trust, given good talent, to turn it into something. Excited about him. And Will Warren, we always mentioned, if you take out 3 starts last year, which I know you can't do, but the 2 clunkers against Toronto and a clunker against LA, which were really bad, yeah, Warren was a 4.5 ERA, but you take those starts out, he was a sub-4. I make that point because overall body of work, Will Warren was he was a winning pitcher for the Yankees last year, and there was a lot of upside. As a depth piece, while starting the rotation to begin the year, depth piece-wise and just overall rotation, there's many reasons here to feel good about. It does heavily rely, though, on, we're getting Cole back June. We're getting Rodon back late April, early May. Those things do have to happen. And if they don't, then, all right, we are going to have to make a trade come the deadline. And that's always something to factor in with any season is the trade deadline exists. This team is not finalized. But on paper, the finalized version of what we're looking at right now should be the best in, at the very least, the American League. Okay, so let's leave it there with that. First 2 reasons you see there, we just went through them. Third one, what is it? Bednar instead of Devin Williams. Now, this is a big one, more so from the standpoint that we always talk about, which is going back to the, again, overarching theme of this offseason as we wrap things up here to begin spring training, which is on Wednesday, and that is, keep in mind, the Yankees and Blue Jays are not that far off from each other. I will, until further notice, acknowledge them as the better team, just out of respect. They kicked our ass last year. But Devin Williams was responsible. You can't measure this directly because, there's many variables that go into this, but based on win probability upon entering, Devin Williams was directly responsible for an estimated 8 to 10 Yankee losses in 2025. And I know closers blow games, but let's not be, dense here. Devin Williams was a massive disappointment for the Yankees last year. He was the best closer in baseball prior to coming to the Yankees, shows up to the Yankees, and while finishing the year very strong, and you got to give him credit there, and that's still a factor because we think about the team going into October. Well, Devin Williams going into October was really good, and he was good in the small postseason sample size, so I got to give him credit there. Losing that Devin Williams, that is a loss. But the point is, one less implosion last year, we win the American League East. And then who knows how the postseason plays out. I mean, we can get at the whole butterfly effect and all that. One less implosion, we win the American League East. But we were tied with Toronto, 94 and 68. They, of course, had the tiebreaker. Rest is history. Devin Williams is no more. And had he not been on the team last year, we very well could have won the East. We have David Bednar. Now, listen, I think there's a lot of valid complaints, but just talking about the way I feel right now, the one thing I cannot defend about this offseason without just pure blind faith, you guys will say you're delusionally optimistic. I disagree wholeheartedly with that. The one area I do have to apply it to is the bullpen. If I'm going to have faith about this bullpen, the only reason I can really go off of is it's baseball. Anything can happen. Kind of blind faith, to be honest. That only applies to the bullpen. I wish they would have addressed this more, and they still can. But every part of this team that I back up with, a million facts that are completely valid, that is always also assisted by the idea that it's baseball. All I really got with the bullpen, though, is that reason that it's baseball. We don't know, and I trust the Yankees with their pitching department. With that said, though, it's question marks after Bednar, and that's not insignificant whatsoever. We should be just fine in the 9th inning, which, that being the case, that does stabilize the concern quite a bit for me. Although, with that said, I like Camilo Duvall. He finished the season strong. We don't know what he's going to be, and he's setting up for Bednar. Fernando Cruz, feel pretty good about that. Tim Hill, you know what he is. We're going to need Jake Bird to be good. The Yankees believe he can be good. Cadewan Quest, Yankees' first Rule 5 draft pick since 2011. There's obviously upside there. There's a reason they selected him. We need him to be good. Brent Hedrick, Hedrick, however you say it. I always go back and forth. feel like they do too. We don't know what he's going to be, but he's a very important pitcher in this bullpen I guess the third lefty, but Ryan Yarbrough, he's kind of in that Paul Blackburn area as like swingman depth, long reliever. In terms of the second true lefty after Tim Hill, I think going into the year, it will be Brent Hedrick. We need him to pitch well. The Yankees believe he will, but obviously that remains to be seen. And Paul Blackburn, small sample size, he was good with the Yankees last year at a relief. We don't know what he's going to be. Is he the next Luke Weaver, or is he going to be Buns? We don't exactly know. You might be hearing me talk right now. It's like, Dan, how is this a reason to be optimistic? It's not the bullpen overall. Those concerns are valid. But going back to, again, it's baseball reason, keep in mind the separation between the Yankees and the Blue Jays is not that steep. And the reason why it was last year, the reason why we didn't win the East, for many reasons, sure, it's baseball. I keep saying that. But if not for Devin Williams, the ending of the season could play out entirely differently. And in fairness, there's aspects to the Blue Jays season where you could apply that same logic in every single team. I understand, but we brought in Devin Williams to be a good closer, and he was not a good closer. He was awful. He lost the job multiple times. And again, for an estimated 8 to 10 losses he was directly responsible for, one less of those, and we win the American League East. So at least with a closer position, we're in a much better spot. We got David Bednar, who was terrific with us last year, and no more Devin Williams implosions. So that's where I'm at for reason 3. Let me take a quick sip of my coffee, chat. A reminder to drop a like on the stream if you have not already. But let's get back to it, and then I got to head into the Big Apple. I got to do some Saturday office work, chat, which I'm excited about. Anyways, those are our first 3 reasons. Reasons number 4, this one is very straightforward, and it's year 2 of Ben Rice. Now, you guys know my lineup where I have him slotted in, and most projections and predictions are quite similar in this regard. Grisham, Judge, Bellinger, Rice, Stanton 5. And the reason you do that is, all right, yeah, would you want Stanton batting cleanup behind Bellinger? In an ideal world, yes, but with, at least for the starting lineup now, it's balanced out more overall with Goldschmidt and Rosario, and the bench fixed this issue. But for the starting lineup, you do have a lot of lefty bats. And if you're going to bat Stanton 4, Rice 5, well, okay, then you got Rice, Jazz, McMahon, 3 guys who, some more than others, are worse against lefties. McMahon's brutal. Rice is still above average. Jazz still above average against lefties, but they're worse against them. So with that said, you don't want 3 guys in a row. I got Rice in the cleanup spot this year, Stanton following him in the 5 slot. But, commonly discussed last year, and rightfully so, Ben Rice, particularly early on, got very unlucky. He was hitting the shit out of the ball, which he did all season long. Here's his Baseball Savant page, blood red across the board. And one fact that I really like, and this is courtesy of MLB.com, is last year, Ben Rice, one of 12 players since 2015, and keep in mind, 2015, that's when StatCast all started, so this is kind of like, not in history, but since the dawn of being able to track this stuff. Ben Rice, one of 12 players to rank in the 90th percentile or better in hard hit and barrel rate, and rank in the 60th percentile or better in K rate. One of 12 players. And going back to his Baseball Savant, you see the stats they're referring to. Blood red across the board, like I said, 97th percentile in expected weighted on base average, 94th percentile in expected batting average. I mean, I don't go through the entire thing. You guys see it here on the screen. But last year was a rousing success for Rice as it is, but that's also knowing that he suffered a lot of bad luck, and he still is going to continue to get better. I got one email the other day, and it was a very well thought out email. By the way, send your email still to dan@yankeesavenue.com. We will get back to reading those in bulk. But somebody sent me a message, very respectable, just disagreeing with me that, Dan, you're really high on Rice. I, not so much. And the reason that they mentioned, which is a valid concern, is, all right, Rice had a really good year. And they weren't talking trash about it, but they acknowledged that he struggled mightily against breaking balls. Well, keep in mind with Ben Rice, the notion or the idea about him entering 2025 was his struggles against fastballs. Well, he fixed that. I am of the belief that he's going to get better at not only scooping balls at first base, but his ability to, whether it's hit breaking balls or lay off of breaking balls. Ben Rice has shown a very strong ability to progress and progress quickly. Remember, this was an unranked prospect. Unranked until out of nowhere he tore it up in the minor leagues and quickly ascended to what is now the everyday first baseman for the Yankees. He learns quick, he adapts quick, and everything I've seen from him so far shows me that he is not a finished product really ever. And even if he were to be a finished product, as we currently speak, that finished product would be a 133 WRC plus. So I think, not to be cliche, but like the sky's the limit with Rice. And my prediction that I keep making is I think Ben Rice is going to be a top 10 hitter in the American League this year, 2026. I think he's going to be the second best offensive player in the Yankees behind Aaron Judge. And what's awesome about it is, he's a homegrown lefty bat. That's our first baseman, everyday first baseman. I mean, that kind of writes itself. So I'm stoked about Rice. Even if we get a replication of what he did this past year in 2025, that's a W. But I have many reasons to think that it's only going to get better. And going back to that stat before, 1 of 12 players since 2015 rank 90th percentile or better in hard hit rate and barrel rate, and rank in the 60th percentile or better in K rate. The reason I bring that up again is I want to point out that 18.9% K rate for the modern ball player, especially one with power, that's like really good. He's a sub 20% K rate, and guys like like Jazz, for example, who with similar power, he strikes out around 25% of the time. Judge, which no problem here given the offensive output is elite. He's actually gotten it down. Judge is around like a 25% K rate. Used to be around 30. He's actually, I think, down to like a 23% this past year. Anyways, for what Ben Rice is offensively and just the modern game, his K rate of 18.9%, that's very low. So he's already, again, a guy that we should be very excited about for what he did last year, but I have reason to believe that he'll be a lot better. And that's freaking awesome. And all these reasons, by the way, go towards the overall why you should be excited for the season, why we have a chance, why nothing is a foregone conclusion that, everything's going to play out the exact same way. But also, individually speaking, just for like reasons to, if you need a little boost of motivation to turn on the Yes Network for a game in June, this is one of those reasons for me. It's like I'm excited to watch the further ascension of Ben Rice. I'm excited to watch Jose Caballero battle with Anthony Volpe for the shortstop job. I'm excited to watch a full year 2 of Cam Schlitter. I'm excited to watch Garrett Cole return. But those are individual reasons for why I would get excited. The main point here why I'm talking about all this is there's many reasons why this team should be pretty damn good. There's many reasons why the gap between us and Toronto is not as wide as many are saying it is. Anyways, fifth and final reason, and that is kind of like a grab bag of a few things here, but have it labeled as Ryan McMahon and better defense. This one is... There's a couple different ways we can go with this, but I really want to go back to the point I always mentioned earlier. You got to look at McMahon and Rosario as essentially one person. McMahon against righties, Rosario against lefties. And the reason I bring that up is if you look at what McMahon did against right-handed pitching last year, let's pull the lineup back up here. He was just below league average, a 98 WRC plus. You flip that over to the left side, 44 WRC plus. Now, these are his numbers from last year. Really bad against lefties, but for the most part, that's kind of how it's been his entire career. And I say that because, keep in mind, in Colorado, Ryan McMahon was pretty much an everyday player. And you still consider him that with us, because when you're facing entirely righties, like that is the majority of the pitchers you'll face will be right-handed. So we'll see McMahon more than we do Rosario. But that's fine, because against righties, McMahon, not to mention the obvious and that his defense is incredible, he's not bad offensively against right-handed pitching, which is also why I have him batting 7th compared to 9th. Some lineups have Wells 7th, McMahon 9th. No, against a right-handed starter, I would slot McMahon in the 7 hole, Wells 9th. Anyways, when a lefty's pitching, I won't go too much on this because you guys already know this, but Rosario, who is terrific against lefties, will be playing third base. Now, also, the reason why I bring up McMahon is something that we've discussed a good bit throughout this offseason, and it's kind of fascinating is, you see his K rate, 32.3%. What's insanely interesting is, let me make sure I got all these stats exactly right here. You look at his Baseball Savant page, 95th percentile in average exit velocity, 89th percentile in hard hit rate, 77th percentile in bat speed, and also 87th percentile in walk rate as well. But going off of the bat-to-ball peripherals, those metrics, 95th percentile in average exit, like he hits the shit out of the ball. And also this, he doesn't chase. Ryan McMahon does not chase. I always say this, if you tell a blind person, Ryan McMahon hits the shit out of the ball. 89th percentile in hard hit rate, 95th percentile in average exit velo, all this and that, 77th percentile bat speed. Oh, and guess what? He also does not chase. You'd be thinking, oh, and by the way, the defense, you'd be thinking, are we talking MVP candidate here? Like, what's the deal? No, we're not, because he whiffs on pitches in the zone. That 32.3% K rate pretty much entirely stems from him whiffing on pitches that are not balls. They are strikes. He's just not hitting them. And the reason I bring it up with a positive tone in my voice is I think that's going to get corrected. And the Yankees have already been working on his swing. And he's already only going to be playing against righties anyways. And those stats are definitely heavily swamped by his poor play against lefties, which he's not really going to be facing lefties much this year at all. But from the standpoint of guys can improve, which we got to keep that in mind too. Nothing is set in stone to replicate itself the exact way it happened in 2025. We don't know what McMahon's going to be. On the positive side of that, he might reduce that K rate. He might be above league average against righties, for all we know, and not just close to league average. What we do know is set in stone is how terrific of a defender he is at third base. I always say it, the best defensive third baseman I've ever seen, maybe next to 2011 Alex Rodriguez. But I have reason to believe, because it's such like an obvious fix to a degree, and they've already implemented it in his off-season routine, is adjustments to his swing that'll hopefully help him cut down on the chase, or excuse me, not the chase, the whiffs, because the chase, as I mentioned, is no issue. It's pitches in the zone that he's just not hitting. And I feel pretty good about the Yankees' ability to correct that. But the main thing here is he is not going to be playing against lefties. Rosario is. So don't worry too much about his offensive production overall. Look at what he does against righties, which is close to a league average bet. That with his defense, even if he doesn't improve at all there, and he's a 98 WRC plus, just slightly below league average, that with his defense, paired with Rosario platooning against lefties, we're going to get good value at a third base this year. At least we should. Now, going back to the list of reasons, I put McMahon plus better defense. This is a point I really just want to hammer home, and I've talked about it a lot too, is the team entering 2025 was not the team that finished 2025. And I mentioned that in regards to the defense, the sloppy mistakes, the messiness on the base paths, the forgetting how many outs there are. That really got cleaned up over the last 2 months of the season. And I know how we see how the season finished with the ALDS against Toronto. Last year was a failure. Last year was despicable. And if this season ends the same way, I'll treat it the same way I do every year we don't make the playoffs, or forget make the playoffs, win the World Series. 2024, 2025, 2023, they're all the same shit, failure. But a lot of that is the emotion. When I apply logic, I can recognize that, that team that was entering October for the Yankees last year, or look at the team that played against Boston. I highly encourage everybody to go watch the game highlights of our series against Boston in the wild card. We were playing good ball. And that resembles what we looked like for the last month and a half, 2 months of the year, where the defense was significantly improved. The lineup balance, main thing, lack of sloppy mistakes that we saw so much over the first 3 to 4 months, that really got cleaned up. So all these, people mention boon ball, which is a very funny phrase, I will acknowledge. Boon ball, or, all these things that are commonly associated with last year's team, this era of Yankees, that's not really an active conversation. That got cleaned up. And reminder, that is not why we lost against Toronto. Granted, Jazz made that awful error that could have been double play in Game 4. We were already losing at that point, but I do have to acknowledge, if it's a 2-1 game entering the bottom of the 7th, things could be entirely different. Jazz booted that error. Game gets out of hand there. But anyways, what was I going to say? Just that the team is not in the same spot as it was early on in the year. And that's a big thing because, listen, the amount of games, we mentioned Devin Williams, and rightfully so, how he cost us games last year. Early on, especially the June swoon, that era in the summer where we were just shitting ourselves, a lot of that was attributed to poor defense, poor play, poor fundamentals, whatever you want to name it. That really got cleaned up as time went on. And a big part of that is McMahon shoring up the defense at third base. And in the case of if Volpe is ass defensively, which would be unacceptable, at the very least, Volpe's got to do his thing with the glove. But if he doesn't, you got Caballero right there. And Jazz, while he pisses me off with stupid mistakes and just mentioned error against Toronto, Jazz is, by the way, a really good defensive second baseman. He was 8 outs above average at second base last year. The only, and this applies to the whole Yankees team. It really does. Defensively, the one area to have some trepidation about is Ben Rice at first base. I believe he will improve, and the main thing is scooping balls in the dirt. Outside of that, though, the Yankees should have a really good defensive team in 2026. Wells is defensively a great catcher. Jazz is an elite defensive second baseman. McMahon at third we know about. Shortstop, all right, Volpe, we'll see if he gets back to his 2024 defense, but if not, you know what Caballero is. And then in the outfield, Judge is great in right. Bellinger's great in left. Grisham, I'm sorry, is great in center. I don't want to hear anything about the defensive metrics as of right now because a big part of that was heavily swayed by his hamstring injury. And for those that were watching, you know that he was still playing during that time, and he really kind of had to like dog it after balls for a couple weeks, and that heavily affected his defensive metrics. I believe in Grisham in center field defensively. Yes, it's an eye test thing. If the metrics disagree with me for another year and it plays out where he's below league average, he grades out below league average again, all right, that's a different story. But for right now, I look at that as an aberration. I trust Grisham in center field. Point is, the defense for this team should be really good. Just got to see what Ben Rice is going to be at first base, but I trust Rice. I really do. Anyways, those are the 5 reasons to be optimistic for 2026.